Representative Steinborn, there is an effort during this session to increase the amount of money in the closing fund. Do you think this is a good way to bring new jobs and businesses to New Mexico?
It can be sometimes. Sometimes in order to recruit employers, you need some ability to create some infrastructure, help put the deal together. So I think it can be a good idea. It just has to be done in a way that has transparency, that makes sure that we're not wasting money on ventures that would be coming here anyway, or that don't have the necessary clawback provisions if a company comes and we spend millions of dollars to get them here and then they take off the next year. What are we doing to get some of that money back? And so if we do this, and I know there's a lot of support for that, we have to have those mechanisms in place, I think.
Do we have enough money to increase the closing fund?
This is a great question. Right now it's a moving budget picture. We're going to have a revised estimate because with the falling price of oil and how dependent our state budget is on that, if we end up having a nearly flat budget, we may not have any new money to do that unless we cut something else. So right now this is a question mark that we're not really going to know for a few more weeks, I think.
Representative Egolf, you have a proposal to create a small business development fund for businesses here in New Mexico. How would that process work for a business owner?
Well, small businesses are the biggest driver of job growth in New Mexico, but the biggest hurdle they face is access to capital to expand a facility or to invest in new equipment. What we plan to do with this bill is open up a small percentage of the state's permanent funds, which are among the largest permanent funds in the world, so that the state can partner with locally owned New Mexico community banks throughout the state to make small business loans to deserving and worthwhile businesses. The idea is simply that the state would partner with these local banks to help make loans to small businesses. The state would get a market rate return on its investment, as would the bank, and then the small business owner would get an opportunity to expand and hopefully hire more people and create some jobs.
So what is the risk to the permanent fund?
Well, we would initially take between $50 and $100 million and set that aside and make it available so that if a locally owned bank approaches the state to say, we will put up 51% of the loan, ask the state to put up 49%. So the risk would be shared. The loan would already have been evaluated by the locally owned bank or credit union to make sure that it meets their underwriting standards, and then the state, by the bill, would also do the same thing. So we would have our own underwriting assessment to make sure that there's sufficient cash flow in the business, that it's a worthwhile endeavor. And once those criteria are met, we would lend at market rates. And so the interest rate that would be charged by the local bank would be roughly the same rate charged by the state. But this will help not just the small businesses, it also helps the small banks around New Mexico who are really having a hard time complying with a whole new raft of federal regulations, capital requirements that are especially hard on the small banks who do most of the lending in our small communities, because they don't have teams of accountants and lawyers like Bank of America and Wells Fargo to help them comply with the regulations. This will make it a little bit easier for them to survive and to hopefully thrive in their communities.
So this is different from some other economic development proposals because it starts with the bank, the local bank, instead of with a politician.
Right. The idea is take politics out of it. There would be no mechanism for a governor or a legislator to call the Small Business Development Fund and say, give a loan to so-and-so. Instead, it starts from the bottom up. It's a bank, and this is specific in the law. It starts with the bank contacting the development fund to ask for assistance in making a loan, so that you've got, and also by making sure that the state never has more than 49% of the loan, you're always making sure that the local bank is taking a little bit more risk than the state. They're not going to put on the line their capital, their money, if it's not a real good loan with a reasonable likelihood of being repaid. So by sharing that risk and by having it be bottom up, we're going to go a long way to making sure that this is a strong program that will produce a good return for the permanent fund and also produce a good job creation stimulus to New Mexico's economy.
Representative Larrañaga, you've got a proposal that would give tax deductions to companies that bring more high-tech manufacturing into the state. How will that work?
Well, what we're trying to do with this is do manufacturing of directed energy and satellite projects that stay in New Mexico. In New Mexico, we do all of the research and do all the testing for directed energy and satellites at White Sands and in other areas in New Mexico. What happens to us is we do all of the engineering, we do all the testing, and then the manufacturing of these goes outside to other states that don't tax the Department of Energy contracts. And so what we're doing is trying to make us competitive with all those other states. Now, the biggest buyer or the biggest client that is for this kind of work is the Air Force Research Lab at Kirtland Air Force Base. They have a $700 million contract or budget that they do this work. And so we're trying to keep that work of the manufacturing to stay in New Mexico to make us competitive. We want high technology jobs. That's what we're looking at.
But this would not apply to existing contracts.
It would not apply to any existing contracts. It's only for new work that would be coming back to New Mexico through the process of the manufacturing of directed energy and satellites.
And how much do you think this could cost?
Well, you know, it depends how big a contract there would be out there for the manufacturing, but it costs us in taxes. But what it would provide us jobs, and if we did a dynamic scoring in which we would take how much personal income tax, corporate income tax, and property taxes and the like that would come back to New Mexico. New Mexico would be a big winner when it comes to all those taxes to replace the deduction of the gross receipts tax that we are looking at.
Representative Trujillo, you want to increase the number of tech jobs in New Mexico. How does your proposal work?
Gwyneth, that is correct. This is House Bill 66. It's the tech commercialization bill. And what this bill does is I've identified that we don't do a very good job in this state as far as providing opportunity or creating our intellectual property and our new technologies. These ideas, we don't do a very good job of keeping them in the state. These ideas all go to California, they all go to Boston, they all go to Austin, Texas, and what's left behind is our own students, our own children aren't left with the opportunities here, and thus we export them out. And so this bill is aimed at creating an environment so that we can keep these jobs here, we can keep our local talent here, we can provide security to our families here in this state.
Well, how is that different from what we're already doing in the state to promote tech jobs?
What this bill will do is there's three legs to a stool to helping these new companies start up in these new technologies. And currently we have the ideas. We have an abundance of ideas from our national labs, from our research universities. So the other couple legs that we need of this stool to make this, to formulate these companies and keep them here, one of that is venture capital. So this bill aims at providing that gap funding, that venture capital for these businesses to stay here. We still need to find the qualified management that will help bring this to commercialization. And so the next task will be is making sure that we are identifying these individuals, training them in this state so that we can have all three legs put together. And once again, this is to provide opportunity for our kids, and just for everybody in the state. And these tech jobs that we create, these jobs pay on average have a starting salary of $68,000 and upward.
That's the potential. How much would your proposal cost us?
So this proposal is a little bit interesting because we don't ask for money out of the general fund. This proposal is not a tax increase. Where the money comes for this proposal is it comes from the Severance Permanent Fund, which we are already allowed to invest in new technology. So it takes 1/4% of those dollars, which will create a fund of about $12 to $14 million. It takes the Research Technology Collaborative, which is a board of 11 members that are scientists from our labs, professors from our universities, and 5 other members that have experience in investment banking, venture capital, and business. And so these 11-member board will vet the idea and make sure that this is close to commercialization. And if they approve it, then they can now apply for the monies that are needed. And the state of New Mexico still keeps the ownership of that equity share. So as this company grows, and if they expand and they decide they have an exit strategy and they want to sell out, then that equity plus whatever it's increased by returns back to the fund so that we continue to revolve the doors and fund other new ideas and new companies.
So what kind of technology are we talking about here?
Biosensors is huge moving forward. Nanomaterials for sensors that are going to go into individual cells that would be used worldwide. So the markets are very, very big. And why we're not keeping those ideas here is part of is what this bill is aimed at. Computer science security, we know that computer programming, there's one company here in New Mexico that has already started up and has grown already to I think $20 million this coming year, and they have an exit strategy of $80 million. And so these are the companies that we need to make sure that we are investing in, finding in an early stage so that we keep them here in New Mexico and provide those opportunities for the families here. Because in the end, you know, New Mexico families just want to feel secure that they have a good job, they don't have to stress about making their mortgage payment, and that they can have the opportunity to send their kids to college. That's what New Mexico families want. This is what this bill is aimed to get to, is to provide those opportunities.